Welcome, everyone. Thank you for your patience and for taking the time to attend our Seda and SAFI Export Development webinar. I am Bernadette Isaacs. I'm the Managing Director of the South African Furniture Initiative, and I will be facilitating today's webinar. We will start off with some house rules. To prevent disruptions, we please ask that you mute your microphones and your videos are switched off. Please note that questions from presentations are to be written on the chat and that answers will be provided during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. We thank you for your cooperation. So just to give the purpose of the South African Furniture Initiative and Seda have partnered on a series of webinars to better understand the respective offerings that we offer our members. So SAFI itself doesn't offer any export development programs, but we partner with key stakeholders like Seda to give an offering to our members in the furniture industry. Today, we are here to present what Seda has available for the furniture industry with regards to export development. The first presenter would be Leah Cherian. She'll be presenting on the She Trades overview and video. As you can see on the program, then Mr. Randani Menenza will join us and give an overview on the export readiness, as well as Linda Bird, who will give us a presentation on export advice in the furniture industry. Then we will then have a Q&A session, and then we'll have the thanks and closure. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Leah Cherian. Leah is the Program Implementation Specialist for the Export Development at Seda. Leah project manages the delivery of Seda's export development program on a national arena. Leah has been 14 years or has 14 years sound experience in the small business development environment, specifically in training and capacity building area. Leah has completed her undergraduate in public relations, and has an honors degree in integrated organizational communication. And like I said, Leah will be doing the presentation on the She Trades overview. Thank you, Leah. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Bernadette, for that very warm welcome. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for being a part of this Seda SAFI initiative of Export Development webinar. So first of all, I would like to play an export development video just to give you an idea of the program that Seda offers for export development, and then we will take it from there with regards to the presentation.
Yes, thank
Can you hear us?
There is perhaps no greater joy for an entrepreneur than the moment when his or her small business starts shaking hands across international borders with potential buyers of their products. That is the moment when a humble small enterprise becomes a player on the global business stage. The Small Enterprise Development Agency, as part of its myriad of entrepreneurial services, is proud of its dedicated export development and trade facilitation program, designed to help small enterprises in South Africa to acquire and apply practical skills in developing their export capabilities. After all, small enterprises can only start bringing revenue into the country when it can start exposing its products or services to international markets. Seda's Export Development and Trade Facilitation Program aims through practical skills training to develop and generate export-ready small enterprises that are globally competitive and able to grow markets both locally and internationally. The program consists of an export readiness assessment to determine export readiness and to identify relevant needed interventions to become an exporter, international trade workshops with embassy representatives from different SADC and BRICS countries, and doing business in Africa workshops on the profile of African markets and the different market entry levels. In addition, selected small enterprises are exposed to an 8-week practical outcome-based training course to determine their export capabilities. Modules covered include export orientation and readiness, export market development, exhibition and trade preparation, and African market trade skills. Through these services, Seda's export development assistance can assure that an SMME gains the needed access, skills, and expertise to step across trade borders with confidence. The program also offers promotional support to SMME exporters by identifying local and international promotional opportunities where potential exporters can test their newly acquired skills. Seda ensures that clients are assisted with marketing opportunities which are funded through the DTI incentive schemes. To identify potential export businesses, Seda uses a screening tool called the Export Readiness Assessment Tool, or ERAT. Aside from Seda's Export Development Program, it also provides a supplier development program aimed at strengthening the performance of small enterprise supplier firms by enabling them to acquire the skills and capacity to become globally competitive. Seda's Supplier Development Program targets SMMEs that have gone past the start-up phase and who are potential suppliers to corporates, state-owned enterprises, and the private sector. The program assists selected small businesses by helping to reduce costs, increase capacity, improve technology, streamline performance, and quality assurance as a supplier, facilitate a localized supply chain, and to improve relations with buyers in order to ultimately strengthen the economy and contribute to job creation. For further information on Seda's export development, trade facilitation, and supplier development programs, feel free to contact the Seda branch nearest to you. Let us help you to broaden your horizons.
Okay. As Bernadette had informed, I'm part of the Seda Export Development Program, and this is what the program entails. But before that, just to give you an idea of who Seda is, Seda was established in December 2004, and it was through the National Small Business Act as it was amended in 2004. So initially, it was a merger between 3 organizations, which was INSICA, and then NAMAC, it was the National Manufacturing Advisory Center, and lastly, the Community Public-Private Partnership Program, which is known as the CPPP. And then the Godisa Trust Incubation Program, the Technology Transfer Program, and the SA Quality Institute later were incorporated to form the Seda Technology Program. And Seda's vision, mission, and values. Our vision is very straightforward: to be the center of excellence for small business development in South Africa. And our mission, to ensure that entrepreneurship is promoted and to develop small enterprises by providing customized, non-financial business support services that results in business growth and sustainability in collaboration with other role players. So I stress on the non-financial business support service part. And lastly, our values, which is 4 aspects, which is customer centricity, nurturing, innovation, and responsible conduct. So the experience of what the SME Export Support Program, what it entails, okay, is the first, we've got the instruments that are used on the left-hand side and what it entails on the right. So the Seda Export Development Program can be divided into 3 aspects or 3 levels of it. So the one instrument would be the export workshop, and we have the export awareness workshop. In that workshop, we create awareness about export. We try and get various stakeholders, like now due to COVID, we try and do it in a webinar format where we get various stakeholders like SARS, or we've had like some of the councils or associations that come on board and give presentations on various aspects of export. And then we've got something called the Export International Trade Workshop, or the webinar. That is where we invite a specific country from, or the economic attaché from a specific country, and they will come and give a presentation on access to market opportunities in their respective country, along with investment opportunities. So our SMEs can see what all products are needed in that country, or what can be exported from that country or imported to the, within the country. So that will give them market access opportunities, and also raw material to South Africa on what is needed here in South Africa also. And then we've got something called the export assessment. Now we'll explain that further. That is a tool that is used on SMEs who've got the potential to export, and they do the assessment so that they can see the readiness of how ready are you to export your product. And then the third instrument is the export training. That is the export orientation training. It's a 5-day training under normal circumstances, which will be held at a branch, and it runs through the 5 days where the modules revolve around your marketing strategy, export marketing strategy, and then your pricing and the various Incoterms that are used with regards to export. So that is what the export training entails. And then there is the export development aspect. That is when once I will explain that once I go into the export readiness assessment tool. And then we've got the export promotion. That is the exhibitions and trade fairs and business to business opportunities that we normally have. And the export promotion can be on a local market, or it can be on an international market. And then lastly, it's your export aftercare. That is a mentorship or the aftercare that the SME receives after they have come back from a trade fair. And if they've got any leads, what are the processes that need to be followed to ensure that that lead is taken forth. So this is the components of the program, like I explained. First is the information, then it's the training aspect, and then it's the actual development, and then it's the market access. So the value chain of the export program is, like I said, the export workshops, that will be your export informations, and then the export readiness assessment tool, and that is where the assessment of the readiness of the business is done, and also if they're not ready, what is needed to ensure that they are ready. And then it's the training and capacity building, like I said, the export orientation course, and then there will be specific trainings on sectors if it's needed. And then the export development part would be the support and linkages with specific interventions. And lastly, the export promotion. It's just to give you an idea in a visual mode of what I had explained earlier on. And then the mentorship part, the last part, it is continuous, meaning they would be monitoring and evaluation to see exactly whether the business is moving forth and what are the obstacles that is standing in its way. And here is the structure of the ERAT tool. It's the Export Readiness Assessment tool, and it is divided into 4 components. So the first assessment would be done on the business readiness. Are you ready to export? And if you are not ready, what are the gaps in your business that's preventing you from exporting? And then there would be the product and product development, meaning your product. Maybe there are aspects of the product that needs to be fine-tuned. Maybe there are product development, like your actual your production part that needs to be corrected and to make it more efficient so that you have a larger number or a greater output that needs to be focused on. The third aspect would be the markets and the marketing. The markets would be your access to markets, that's your local and international markets, and then also your marketing aspect. How do people know about your products? We need to get the word out. So what are the marketing opportunities that is lacking, or what needs to be done? And lastly, it's the actual export development part of your product. So basically the export readiness assessment tool, it is conducted to ensure that the business advisors at the branches they are able to make a fair and consistent decision when they are assessing your business, and finally they will decide whether your business is ready for export. And then it also provides a benchmark, meaning once they've done the assessment, they are able to see, okay, these are the interventions that's needed in your business. But at the same time, later on, maybe in a year or two, they're able to compare and see that, okay, this is where the person was when they started off in the program, in the export development program, and this is where they are. So they're able to see a progression level between the two areas or timelines. And then the third would be to help the business advisor address the most relevant areas. So sometimes it's some things that's most urgent that needs to be corrected. So that will be addressed. And lastly, to develop an action plan for improving export readiness. So what are the procedures, what are the processes that need to be followed to ensure that your business, your product is export ready? So this is just the process flow, just to give you an idea. So if you look at it from the top right hand side going to the left, if you look at it, it will be you attend a seminar, and then you do you register on the Seda exporter database. You become a client of Seda's, and then once you've done all the interventions, and once you see that you're ready to, okay, I'm ready now to attend the export development program, that's when you do the export readiness assessment tool. And if your score is less than 50, that means you're not ready to export your products. So they refer you back into the Seda branch, and then they will do relevant interventions, like maybe it will be your business basic skills that needs to be improved. So those kind of interventions will be worked on. And then if you score some less than 65, you're ready to attend the export orientation, and the course will be given to you at the branch level. And then if you score less than 70%, that means that you're ready for export, but there's certain things that need to be tweaked. So that is where the export development assistance will be required. So there will be diagnostic tools like your critical planning exercise and your ACO tools. That is also tools that's used at the branches. And one assesses to see exactly where the gaps in your business are, and the other one assesses to see what your future holds within your business, so that they can assess it from both perspectives. And then the possible interventions that can be looked at for your business when you are scoring something around the 70 points is that your product improvement. There's an aspect in the product export orientation course where the facilitator expects the participant to come and do a show and tell on their product. And sometimes it's the little things like a labeling on your bottle, for example. Say if it's a cream or a lotion, and it could be the labeling that needs to be changed. The product is fantastic, but the label, maybe the words can't be seen. Maybe you've not included the ingredients that needs to be included into that label. What all that product comprises of. So it's little things that needs to be tweaked. When it comes to product improvement, sometimes it's your packaging that needs to be changed. Maybe it's not efficient, maybe it's not eye-catching. That will be something that will be looked at. So that when it comes to product improvement, that is the kind of look that we are looking at. So within the furniture industry, when it comes to product improvement, it could be your specifications, your structure, or it needs to be a little more clever and innovative. Maybe that would be something that needs to be looked at. So with regards to your productivity, it will be how efficient are you with your output, your product line. Is it efficient? Is there any bottlenecks that's happening? Those are the things that you need to look at. Then it's your quality management standards. You need to go for your quality standards trainings and to ensure that you are ISO certified. Those are possible interventions that will be needed. And lastly, it's your marketing. Okay, fine, you've got everything. You've got a brilliant product. You're efficient with regards to your production. Your quality standards are in place. You're ready now to export, but your marketing, who knows about your product? It's something that needs to go out into the market. So your marketing aspect will be looked at. And then we look at how we can start filtering into the local markets. So if you are scoring over 70, that means you're export ready. So now what we would be looking at is that the ideal situation would be that we first look at the local markets for you. Like if you're in the furniture industry, it will be your Decorex, something locally, that exhibitions that you would attend, so that you can start getting an appetite within the national level. And then there are times then you skipping the national level, maybe your product is more viable on an international market. So then you look at the trade fairs and exhibitions, like your London Top Draw, if you're in the fashion industry, it will be your Torino Fashion Week, those kind of things that you would be looking at. So sometimes otherwise it will be your business to business. We try and link you up with businesses in other countries. So that is where your market access opportunities will be coming in. So the expected outcomes of the export development program: number one, we want you to improve your products. We want you to improve your system. When there is an improvement in the system, there is better flow of production and everything is in place. There's no wastage. Those are the things that you need to look at. And then it provides you with market access opportunities, whether it's on a local front or it's on an international front. And then there's an increase of number of companies exporting. I mean, we've got everything, your product is in place, your marketing is in place. And then once you're starting to export, that means there's an increased number of exporting companies, which is fantastic for us as South Africans, where the economy is built. Increase the value of exports and increase the number of international clients. So the international foreign currency that comes into the country is improved. So that is our presentation in a nutshell. I just want to share the She Trades program for all the women entrepreneurs or participants that is participating here today. I just want to introduce you to the She Trades program. The She Trades program, it is a program that is going to be introduced to South Africa very soon. And it's a program that it's solely for women, and it's all about economy growth. And from a women's perspective, it's what the main aspect of it is that we want women to be part of a forum where they are able to access markets, they're able to get free learning online, where they're able to be kept abreast of international trade centers activities and their programs and their exhibitions. And that is something that is going to be rolled out in all the provinces. We are going to have a roadshow starting from the 3rd of November in Free State, and the dates will be communicated within each province. And it's a program where we want the women to register. So the roadshow it's a virtual roadshow where people will be attending it via Zoom link, and we want women to get on online, and we want to teach them how to register on ITC's database. And ITC will be doing assessment on the business to see exactly what are the gaps and what sort of interventions are needed to ensure that your business is export ready and you are able to market your product. So I just want to share a very short She Trades video that can be played. And please, Bernadette, just let me know if you can hear again, please.
I run my own Shea business.
Yes, thank you, Leah. We can hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's where SheTrades.com comes in. As a seller, not only can I sell my products, but I can find services and products on SheTrades.com. I can develop my skills through the SheTrades virtual learning, and the SheTrades news, success stories, and videos are so inspiring. Buyers and investors can also use the SheTrades platform to source services and products from women entrepreneurs like me. And as the verifiers, supporting women entrepreneurs such as chambers of commerce, business support organizations, and SheTrades partner institutions who can verify sellers, giving us a stamp of approval displayed on our profile to give us more credibility. All users can also commit to one or all of the 7 global actions to continue empowering women entrepreneurs together. SheTrades.com is all about expanding your knowledge and your market to help your business reach new heights. Register on SheTrades.com today and get the free mobile app available on Android and iOS.
So that is the She Trades program in a nutshell. And please just brace yourself for it and watch the space. So I hope that you will benefit from this program. Bernadette, thank you very much for this opportunity. I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Leah, for a very informative and interesting presentation and for the videos. Just in terms of the furniture sector, we are in the process of finalizing our furniture industry master plan. And what you've presented today in terms of existing offerings for the furniture industry, as well as the She Trade program, is actually part and parcel of two important programs. So in the furniture industry master plan, there is a program looking at export development in terms of the formation of an export council in the furniture industry, as well as transformation and programs aligned to or for women-owned businesses in the furniture industry. So thank you very much for that, Leah. And we're looking forward to working with Seda on programs in the future. Now I hand over to Mr. Rindani Menenze. Rindani is responsible for export information services within the Trade and Investment South Africa, TISA division, and has been with the department for almost 10 years. Mr. Rindani Menenze holds a BCom economics degree from the University of Venda. Welcome, Mr. Rindani. I now hand over to you. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, colleagues. How are you?
We're fine, thank you, Rindani. You can proceed with your presentation.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for leading the program, and thank you to Leah for a wonderful presentation indeed. We really appreciate that. However, some of the things that you presented, it really touched a lot into the export readiness assessment presentation. I will try as much as I can to be more detailed and briefly as I can. All right, I'm going to be talking about the export seminar presentation that we, as the Department of Trade and Industry, we offer in all 9 provinces and dealing with many stakeholders, including Seda and all the economic development into the province and the municipalities. So my presentation, it's well detailed, but not that long. So I need to really speak to somebody who says, look, Randani, I need to export. So there are a few questions that I will ask. I don't necessarily need answers on that. But however, I will want any exporter to really position themselves into this space that I'll be talking about. So my first question is that, does your company have a product or services which is available in the domestic market? As an emerging exporter, obviously, when you decide that you want to export, you need to probably have the product or the services. The second question that I will ask you as an entrepreneur or as an exporter is that the production capacity. Does your company have sufficient production capacity to serve the domestic and the export market? So now in this assessment, what we're trying to do, we're trying to gauge as to whether how are you performing domestically, and if you consider exporting outside the market, I mean outside the country, will you have enough production capacity to can service both domestic and export market? Now I'll then proceed and ask you another question as an exporter that relates to the issue of finance. Does your company have financial resources to support marketing of your product in the international market? I was still talking about the issue of finance. Does your company have financial resources to support the marketing of your product in the international market? Which market have you identified, and which marketing tools are you going to use to market your product in that market? So now, those are some of the questions that you really need to understand before you could even enter into the export market space. Does your company have access to bridging finance? Which institution offer bridging finance? And now we will also talk about the resources, staff, time, storage, facilities, additional shift requirements, Do you have enough staff and storage facilities that you can use? Do you have enough time? Do you have additional shift? Say, for instance, you clinch a deal outside the market. Now you're required now to have additional staff to make more production. Now going back to the issue of capacity, you will need additional raw material. Now going back to the issue of finance. In the absence of finance, have you identified institutions that can assist you with financing your order? So now in this instance, we normally refer people to a small enterprise finance agency as our partners that we work with, mostly when people clinch the international deals, even some local deals as well. We do refer them to SAFI to get the financial assistance. And does your company understand the export process method of payments and export documentation? Have you attended the Global Export Passport Program? Because within the DTI, we do have a program called Global Export Passport Program that entails about 4 phases that you need to attend in order for you to have capacity in terms of export processes. So now, those are the few questions that I normally need to ask my exporters before I can get into much details of that. So now, my other question would be like the product modification. Can your company be able to modify their product or services according to clients and the country requirements? In this area of export, you will find that there are countries that need their product customized, or they need their product modified in a certain way. So now my question to you as an exporter is that, are you willing to modify your product just to satisfy a certain needs, just to satisfy a certain requirements of certain countries? So do you also have the product standard? Is your product or services meet the international standard? For an example, the international standard operation, which we call ISO, does your company have that ISO certificate? So if you do not have ISO certificate, I will really urge all the exporters or the emerging exporters in their house to really familiarize themselves and visit South African Bureau of Standard in order to obtain this certificate, because now, Leah, it's a requirement in some of the countries we need to see the ISO certificate of your product. So I will urge everyone to really visit the website for the South African Bureau of Standard and really communicate with the officials there to assist in order to obtain this particular certificate. Leah, you will rectify me or correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I remember, Seda used to fund this particular certificate. Am I right? Is still the offering still there?
So Seda provides ISO trainings. We've got a quality management division that does training for ISO and for HACCP trainings also.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, so I really urge each and every emerging exporter in the house to really familiarize themselves with the ISO standard and talk to SAFI so that SAFI can really assist, because I believe it comes with some monetary value on it, right? They need to pay for this training, isn't it?
No, it's free of charge, meaning it's Seda provides it free of charge, the HACCP and the ISO training.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, what is certificate of origin? Which institution are mandated to issue certificate of origin? Look, in some countries, when you export your product, they will want to see the certificate of origin. So you should familiarize yourself with the Chamber of Commerce within that particular province to issue you with a certificate of origin of your product. I think most countries are doing that to avoid situation wherein Rendani will go to China and buy a product, come and repackage the product, and the product is going to be written probably South African made. So now they need to be a certificate of origin to indicate that indeed the product that Rendani is exporting was originated from South Africa. So I think Chamber of Commerce, they're the one responsible to issue the certificate of origin. So should you come across any country that or any client abroad that requires a certificate of origin, you should know that you need to communicate or contact the Chamber of Commerce within your province. The issue of marketing plan. Now, I just want to find out if people do really have the marketing plan. Does your company have a marketing plan to develop for export market? Do you know how to develop an export marketing strategy? So now the training or the program that I spoke about earlier that we call Global Export Passport Program, we do offer export marketing strategy as a course during that particular training. So I'll urge each and every one of you to participate and really apply to participate into those global export passport programs so that they outline more into the marketing plan. You get into the export industry having full understanding and knowledge about the marketing strategy. Oops. Okay, let me do this. Okay, now I need to also dwell much into the issues of competition. Colleagues, you'll bear with me that when you enter into the export market, there's a huge competition, not only domestic. So it's a global competition. Do you know who are your competitors, their pricing, the distribution channel in the market you have identified? What are the systems which you will use to identify your competitors? You need to identify your competitors because now, if you're saying my product, it's well received in Africa, you should also know that even Europe, it's also sending their product into that African countries that you are also sending. So you need to know, how do they price their product? How do they distribute their product? You need to identify such particular channels to say you need to position yourself in order to be competitive. Is your company willing to participate into the international trade shows? That's when now the export marketing and investment assistants get in. EMEA. We, as the Department of Trade and Industry, we have got a non-monetary incentive that we assist all sectors who want to get exposure to sell their product internationally. How do we do that? We've got various shows, we've got various exhibitions, we've got what we call outward selling mission, we've got what we call business to business meeting, wherein we link South African buyers and the sellers, or we link South African exporters and the buyers abroad. I'll make this an example. Say, for instance, we've got people who are in the art and craft or furniture that are really participating today. I think that will be a relevant example. Now, you want to go and sell your furniture in Ghana. What we do, we identify people that are selling furnitures in Ghana, the furniture stores, to say, look, we're going to have this show into South African Embassy. We'd like to invite you to come and have a one-on-one business meeting with South African furniture manufacturers. So we organize that. You'll find that an exporter will have a chance to engage at least 20 buyers of furnitures. I'm telling you, out of those 20 buyers, you're going to be able to clean at least 5 deals. So now, if you clean those 5 deals, there will be a time wherein those people, those buyers, they will want to come to South Africa to see your showroom. They will want to see your manufacturing process. They will really want to come and visit you so that they can have what you call look and feel of the product that you are manufacturing. So now, we have various incentives that also cover that. When your buyers are coming into the country, we also incentivize them. Just that I don't have the right figures now on how much do they get daily when they're visiting the country. So we really encourage you guys to participate into the international trade show that are normally published in our website. It's just that it's unfortunate here now, this year, that most of them, they are happening on the webinar. I believe, Leah, you have seen some of the shows that are happening online, am I right?
We are part of a few of them also.
You are part of a few of them, right? Yeah, so I believe when things are going back to normal, we will really encourage you to apply and participate into those international trade shows. And now it also gives you advantage. If you've attended our Global Export Passport Program as export development, it really holds water when you apply for for the international trade shows, that you also attach the certificate that we issue at the end of the training, because we also issue the certificate of attendance, then that really shows the other side of IMIA, that you understand the pros and cons of exporting, you understand the export processes. So now we really encourage you to start applying for the Global Export Passport Program that are really taking place domestically as I'm speaking. And I believe we've done Joburg. We are doing Joburg this week. We were in Nelspruit sometime last week. So if you really communicate and liaise with me, I'll be able to get you the calendar of those particular training that are really taking place physically. We're visiting those provinces, obviously bearing in mind the lockdown regulations and the likes. So we're doing that. Does your product require export permit or license? There are products that before you can even export them, they will require that particular license. So we have an institution within the DTI that will assist you in terms of obtaining that particular license. So, okay, right. So if you want to get that particular permit or license, it's either you apply through SARS or you apply through International Trade Administration Commission, in abbreviation, mostly they call it ITEC. So if you have a product and you want to export permit or license, those are the two institutions that will gladly assist you in obtaining that particular permit. Now, I want us to talk a little bit about the brochure or the photo that I put onto the screen now. If you look at those steps, we do have step number 1 that really talks about you doing the trade fairs and the trade show mission, market weeks, in-store promotion, and visit the foreign embassy, referrals, and whatever. Now, if you look at step number 2, there's time for negotiation now. That's when the business-to-business meetings happens. So when you're negotiating with buyers outside the country, then you need to be negotiating the issues of an export contract, the business offers. That's where you display your samples. If they need more samples, then you should be able to ship more samples to them. If you are saying, I'm doing a headboard, I'm doing couches, and they'll say, look, the one that we have, yes, we can fill it, but don't you have a little bit more of this? If they say they need texture of your couches, they need texture of your headboard and your beds, then you should be able to give them at least small little piece of those fabrics so that they can see that and have a feel of what is really that you have. Now, during that time, it's possible that some of the people come back with order and confirmed order for that matter. So now this, when we having exhibition shows, trade missions, and business to business meeting. Now the third step will go to the issues of exporting. Now your product needs to be labeled. They need to have packages. They need to be marked. They need to be arrangement with the shipment links, arrangement with the marine insurance companies. So now, where do you get all this information? During the Global Export Passport Program, we have experts that will really talk to you about this, that will really take you through these processes so that you have an understanding of what is it that to prepare for an export. Now, step number 4, we come to the issues of process, export documentation, and transport. Now, you need to declare your export, commodity clearance, certificate of an exemption, authorities to load, sale of lending, and other documentation. So now the certificate of origin, can you see that, colleagues, on process number 4, the certificate of origin, it's required. So there's some of the countries, they'll really require that. So now you go to step number 5, you submit all the documentation and you talk of the letters of credit. That's when now you're preparing for the payment. So now all those processes, we do take those processes through the Global Export Passport Program, and we really encourage you to participate and apply to that. Now, the step number 6, I think all the processes are done. That's when now you go into the bank smiling now, when the process is done. So if you miss one of the steps, you're not going to go to step number 6. And that's when it's going to be a problem, because the goods will be sitting somewhere in Ghana, and you will be expecting payment, but without following the right processes, process number 3 and process number 4, you won't have that payment into your bank account, especially step number 5, wherein you need to submit all the documentation, the letters of credit. So you need to understand, how do you price? How do they pay you? Because it's not like a domestic issue wherein you submit an invoice and bank account, the next thing the money is into your account within 5 to 10 working days. So now I need us to talk a little bit more about the export development and support. What is it that we have within the unit? We have got trade opportunities matchmaking. I think I've touched on that when I indicate that our foreign economic representative that are stationed in almost 46 countries abroad, they will organize that. They will matchmake to say, look, back at home, we have got people that are manufacturing furnitures, and they will identify furniture buyers wherever they are. Now, we also have export advice and information, the help desk. That is the walk-in help desk, the physical walk-in help desk within the Department of Trade and Industry. If you happen to visit the DTIC in Block C, you will see we have got a designated area where we assist all clients who need information with regard to the export. So we call it an export help desk. We also have an advice on incentive and financial support. Although as an export development, we don't really fully engaged on incentive and financial support. But obviously, because people are working through our export help desk, we cannot be sending people from pillar to post on a daily basis. We took it upon ourselves that we also need to learn about what other financial support are there within the DTI. So now, if you visit the DTI and say, look, Randani, I have got this proposal that I want to do. I need advice in terms of which relevant incentive that suit my business. So if you walk into the DTI and you go to the export help desk and you have that queries regarding the incentive, you should be able to get an official that will gladly assist you. It is unfortunately that at the present moment, we are not receiving any client unless if you make an appointment to say on this day, you will come and visit me, so that I can also make an appointment with the wellness center and the security guards. When you enter the DTI, they should be expecting you, and they will expect you to come and see Rendani for a time period. And then from there, you need to leave, because I think it's the whole issue with the pandemic issues, the issue of COVID-19, they're trying to regulate, hence the encouraging people to put questions and everything online, use in the form of emails and telephone calls. So the Global Passport Export Program, it's one of the key programs that we have that it's really working and assisting a lot of exporters that really want to get more information and get more advice and training with regard to the export. The National Export Database Project, what we did as the DTI, we decided that whenever we visit a province or a city, we will collect the information in the form of giving exporters the forms. They complete those forms, and then we go back home. We go back to our offices and capture that information so that we have got a national export database. For instance, our participants that we have today in here, obviously we're going to do that through the register layer. We're going to request the register so that we can see who exactly attended the workshop and what sector are they doing. We also want to look at the issues of gender and the issues of youth, and so that we can determine how many youth participated into this webinar, so that when we build the export database, we also put your names in there into the export database project. The Export Council Support Industry Association, we have got a unit that is responsible mostly with the export councils and the industry association in various sectors, be it steel, be it fresh produce, be it wire and tube, food and leatherware. So we do have the unit that is mostly responsible for that. So if you want to know more about the Export Council Support and the Industry Association and how to join an export council, because it does help for you to belong to a certain council, because now some of the opportunities, they may not necessarily come through the DTI, but they may come through the Export Council. Maybe that deals with furniture for argument's sake. And they say, look, we're looking for furniture suppliers in this industry or in this area of the country. So it's best to find which export council you belong to, and you join that particular export council for your own benefits. So these are the services that we offer within the export help desk. Like I indicated, that we deal mostly with export advice and information, the market access information, export processes and documentation information, the trade lead bulletin. We have got what we call the trade lead bulletin on a weekly basis. There are opportunities that come through the Department of Trade and Industry, and they come through the trade lead bulletin. People abroad requesting various products that we as a country, we are producing or we're manufacturing. So I'll urge participants after this presentation to really contact me through email, obviously, and telephone number that I'll leave, so that we can put them into the database so that they also get those opportunities that others are also getting. Our services is also business confirmation, how to register as an exporter, linking importers with South African buyers, information on the DTI incentive that I've already alluded to, the country profile. I mean, before you send or before you participate into a trade show, it's best for you to understand that profile of certain countries so that it will really help you. Access to all DTI online subscription. For an example, we've got EasyDex, we've got Compass that I was supposed to be part of the training today. It's unfortunate that I had to postpone that particular training so that I can be with you here today. Calendar of events, pavilion, mission, and seminars, which this one for this year we'll put it aside because it's no longer relevant. We had that beginning of March, hoping that this year will be normal like any other years. Unfortunately, we just printed this calendar for nothing. Little did we know that we're going to have 2020 on its own. Trade statistics as well. If you want to know your product, which country is selling more, which country is selling less, and at what percentage, and all those information. We also have what we call Economic Representative Council, ERPC, that provide these trade statistics. If you want to see how was the furniture trading in the past 2 years and which continent was buying more from South Africa, that you can get from ERPC. The export publication, we have got various books that we have within the DTI that if you really want to understand more about the some of the countries and the publications, you're more than welcome to put a request. We'll make it a point that we send those books to the relevant office within your province and your region so that you can also receive that particular export publication. The DTI division brochures, I mean, this you can find from the website. We do not have this anymore. If you really want to understand about what does TISA do within the DTI, what does ITED do, what does IDED do, what does SEZ do? So those are the divisions within the DTI, because the DTI is quite broad. We've got a lot of divisions that deliver different objectives at the end of the day. So those are the information that we can gladly provide you with so that you can familiarize yourself with the DTI. So with that said, it leads to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Randani, for that very informative presentation.
Thank you so much,
I
Bernard.
think we have comfort in that we all the information that you gave us, we can
Yes.
go back to you if we have any questions or clarity or even where to start. So we will definitely be sharing that with the industry and the participants. If they have
Yes.
any further questions, that you can actually deal with that going forward.
Yes.
So in terms of just moving on and going forward, our last presenter is Linda Bird. Linda is from the International Trade and Chamber Consultants Company and has 42 years experience in all aspects of international trade, and shares a vast experience in exports. Linda has worked throughout the African continent, Asia, Central America, and having exported everything from diamonds for De Beers to working with SMMEs globally. Linda, welcome, and I hand over to you now.
Hi, thank you very much indeed. And a special thanks to Bernadette, Leah, and Randani for sharing this platform with me. I'm going to share my screen with you now and put my camera on. Welcome, everybody. Certainly, exporting is not for sissies. And I think we're all singing from the same hymn book here. We're all talking in terms of export readiness, etc., etc. You did introduce me correctly. However, I have started a company and we are now looking at trading South African products. I've set up a company in Mauritius as well, and I'm assisting the Mauritian government with their exporters as well and trading. So I am going to be trading products globally, and we are going to earmark South African products amongst that. Now, obviously, there's a lot of paperwork involved with international trade. And the one thing that I encourage you to do as get-go is to register as both an exporter and an importer, because you're going to have to possibly source raw materials internationally. A lot of people say register as exporters. My advice is register as both. Register as both an exporter and an importer. It's the same document. Also look out for registration as a beneficiary under the numerous trade agreements to which South Africa is signatory. And I will, when we talk about marketing, touch on those trade agreements. So if you are a manufacturer and you are manufacturing goods in South Africa, then register as a beneficiary for the trade agreements to which South Africa is signatory. Another thing that I always encourage companies to do is open a CFC account. That's a client foreign currency account, allowing you to hold dollars. Now, you can only open a dollar account if you are earning export income. So in other words, you have to be a registered exporter and you can then hold dollars. The benefit of this is that you can also use those dollars for payment of freight and your import raw materials, etc. Your web page, your letterhead, everything must have international dialing codes, must have that look and feel that you are competent, sufficient to be able to supply products for global markets. The new company that we've developed is Leading Edge, so you'll see my branding throughout. But marketing, ladies and gentlemen, is the most expensive aspect of any international trade process. It takes at least, and I'm not exaggerating here, 3 to 5 years to develop an export market where you get continual export orders. It must be a long-term process. You must manage that expectation. In-market visits under COVID, all of those kind of things are quite difficult at the moment. I've actually tried to get samples myself of a product to the United States. And it took me from August, and the goods arrived on the 1st of October, and that was air freight. So yes, at the moment we're in a situation globally, we are all in the same storm. We're not necessarily in the same boat, however, but samples are going to have to be costed into your marketing process. You're going to have to supply product or samples back again to your web page. I know that Seda do a marvelous assistance regarding the development of web page brochures, all of that kind of thing. Now, track record is important. And so supplying locally, it is important to have that marketing aspect, to be able to say, I am supplying locally, I have a track record, and I am capable of actually exporting because I'm supplying retailers locally, etc. Then export marketing plan should actually have a long-term process. It's not an overnight success. Also, you need trade statistics. And I know Randani spoke about Compass and all these other processes. All of this is available to you. You just need to know whose doors to knock on. And the previous presenters all covered that in great detail. Trade agreements, we've got our European Economic Partnership Agreement, which is one of the trade agreements that I get most excited about because it also includes foreign direct investment from the European Union into least developed and developing countries. If we export or import from the EU, we are entitled for South African products, provided it's on the shopping list, to go in at a duty-free or lower rate of duty. EFTA is the European Free Trade Area. Those are countries outside of Europe, include Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Iceland. Then we've got a very exciting agreement, which is Mercosur, which is South American countries. Exporting there, we can also have the option of going in duty-free. We have our SADC trade agreement, 14 countries that allow us duty-free access. And then an agreement which is extremely exciting for me, which is the tripartite agreement. And that involves the East African Community, COMESA, and SADC as one trade agreement, giving us access, ladies and gentlemen, to markets from here all the way up to Egypt. It's certainly something to consider. Now, capacity is a big thing. Often I go to clients and I say, yes, we're interested in your product. So they've got their local market responsibilities, which is actually their bread and butter. They're actually paying their staff, they're paying overheads. And suddenly they have to add international manufacturing. So it all comes into cash flow, production capacity, and all of that needs to be given very careful consideration, because nothing is worse than committing to an order and not being able to supply because you don't have the capacity. Oopsie, sorry. Then the supply of raw materials. You're sourcing raw materials for your products. Can you ensure the same quality and quantity? What are the import costs? So you're bringing products in. Now, the South African government, again, through ITAC and through Customs and Excise, under the Customs Schedule, allow us to bring products in duty-free, zero rated for VAT, manufacture and export at your own facility. So you don't have to move into an export processing zone. In your own company, you can set up a 47003 rebate store where you manufacture goods, export those very same goods without having to have paid any VAT and duties on any of your import components. It certainly goes a long way to making you more competitive globally. Holding a CFC account is key because you can earn dollars, keep dollars, and when you're paying your freight, which is generally quoted globally in dollars, you're hedging dollars to dollars. You're not hedging rands to dollars. So the benefit here is that you hold in dollars to pay for your international freight, and you're going to be invoicing the client in dollars. So you're not having to pay the shipping line in rand and then wait for the client to pay you in dollars. You pay the client, the shipping line in dollars, and you're not hedging. You don't have that currency devaluation issues. So it has a huge amount of benefits from a freight perspective, but also from imports. If I'm importing raw materials, I'll give you an example. I'm exporting South African gin, craft gin, in fact, and the company imports all their packaging. And now we've actually allowed them to actually hold dollars, which would mean that their imports would now be paid from a dollar base. And cash flow is a big thing. When are you going to be paid? How are you going to be paid? Needs to be taken into. Now, one of the things that is most difficult is costing your product. And if we're talking to the furniture industry, we need to know what knockdown options we're going to have to be able to fit goods into a container. What minimum quantities are we talking about? You're not going to export one chair. You're going to maybe export chairs knocked down in a container. Minimum quantity, one container load of X amount of chairs. The weights and dimensions, I cannot stress sufficiently, because if you do not understand what your weight and dimension is, you can't cost the product. How many items I'm going to be fitting into a pallet, or how many pallets in a container? If we don't understand weights and dimensions, all freight is quoted per cubic meter or metric ton, unless we're talking in terms of a full container load, which we then get a box rate for that entire container. Freight forwarders, ladies and gentlemen, are essential aspect of exports. You have to have at least 3 freight forwarders whose doors you can knock on to get costings and freight at a very short notice. I have a schedule, an Excel spreadsheet. and I sit and I do costings. I enjoy costings, so it helps. But I make sure that I update my costing sheets all the time. Things like hidden costs, like documentation. For example, if you were exporting to the Middle East, the notarization of the commercial invoice and the certificate of origin is almost 5,000 Rand. And in some instances, I know for Kuwait, it can be as much as 7,000 Rand. Now, that's a cost that you might not have expected. Inland transport costs. I don't know how many of you in Cape Town. I'm moving to Cape Town at the end of this month, actually. So I'm very excited about that, being closer to the port. But for those of us who are in Gauteng, you're looking at about 20,000 added onto that container for that inland movement from Gauteng down to the port. It costs more to move the container from Gauteng to Durban than Durban to the UK. So you need to be aware of those costs. Maximum load capacity. You can't pack more than the container can handle. Otherwise, you're going to get hefty fines from the shipping line. So you need to have an understanding 18 to 21 tons. And in a 40-foot container, you're looking about between 24 and 27 maximum. Also packaging. You need to protect the product. Nothing is worse for an importer to open a container and the goods are damaged inside. Also making use of a less container load. Now, at the moment, the only way I'm getting my gin samples anywhere in the world quicker than air freight is by ocean freight. So I use space in a container. I pack a pallet of samples, put it into a container, and I actually ship it globally. So even if you have a small order, you can still make use of sea freight. And obviously road freight for our neighboring countries, and air freight, we just wish that there was more availability. Now, I'm involved often in arbitration cases for large companies, and I'm involved in a very big arbitration case at the moment for a motor manufacturer. And this is an issue relating legal process. And I audit companies' processes, and I cannot tell you how flimsy their international trade agreements are. And not only their international agreements, but their local terms and conditions of sale that don't talk to global process. We need to have a legal document such as an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, a memorandum of understanding, or a JV, distributorship or agencies. My advice here, never go with an agency as a small company, because it is a far more laborious relationship than that of a distributor. An agency never owns the goods. They basically work for and on behalf of the parent company. You could be expected to pay tax if you have an agent in a foreign country. So yes, agencies are more binding than that of a distributor. A distributor is the way to go. And so you need to have those agreements in place. Then when we actually export, you need to have your contract of sale, which must include the new Incoterms. And I did hear that there was training on Incoterms from Leah's side. Very well done. Payment. None of us are in the welfare business that we just send goods overseas and do not expect payment for that. So we have to make sure that we have payment, letters of credit, bank collections, credit insurance, pre-shipment funding, forfeiting, factoring, all of those things. And obviously then we need to have an understanding of transportation, how we're going to get the goods in. As I say, the world, we are all in the same storm, but we're certainly not in the same boat. We just honestly wish sooner than later that the airlines can pick up business and that we can start moving goods around the world. Insurance. I don't sell insurance. However, if you don't, insurance is a no-brainer. You have to have insurance. So that's something you need to give consideration to. Now, one of the things that we tend to overlook is that documents drive trade. One document moves goods from one continent to another. Banks pay on the presentation of a document. The customs allow goods in on presentation of a document. I was doing a program in Ethiopia for roses, and we exported roses to South Africa. And upon arrival, the phytosanitary certificate and the import permit actually had a spelling error on the phyto certificate that didn't correspond with the import permit. And customs said it's a fraudulent certificate, and I had to destroy 35,000 rands worth of sample roses through a shredder because the document was incorrectly spelt. So we must make sure that our documentation, if there's anything I can share with you today and take away, is that documents drive trade. If I put a container on a vessel and that vessel sinks, the only proof of performance that an importer has that I've performed are the documents provided, because who knows what was in their container? It's all documentary based. So I cannot stress sufficiently the absolute importance of export documentation. There are lots of documents and you get lots of files when you export. So one of the most important one is your contract of sale. That is your blueprint as to how you're going to export, how you're going to be paid, what Incoterm you're prepared to sell under, what are the legal aspects, what you're supplying, your technical issues such as your HS codes, origin, all of that has to be on your pro forma invoice, to the extent as to who's paying the bank fees. Generally, the importer pays his bank fees and you pay your bank fees. Your pro forma invoice must have a date of expiry, because we can't hold prices for too long, because the rand is a little bit like a yo-yo at the moment. So that is why we need to actually say this offer expires 30 days from above date. And even now, sometimes we might have to make it 15 days because of the insecurity of the rand. So your pro forma invoice is your blueprint. All the other contracts follow that process. There has to be a golden thread of conformity that runs all the way through to ensure that your pro forma invoice supports your contract of payment, which could be a documentary credit or letter of credit, bank collection, open account, credit insurance, as I've mentioned. Contract of insurance is a no-brainer. We have to have insurance. We have marine insurance for the main carriage, and generally an inland or transit insurance to move the goods from an inland destination to a port facility or airport facility. We also talk in terms of the contract of transport. Now, the contract of transport for shipping is a very unique document. It allows me to maintain ownership of those goods until I endorse over ownership by handing over those bills to the importer. And we can use that as a method of payment. So if I consign a bill of lading to order, which is to myself, and the vessel sails, I hold back the 3 originals. I say to the importer, do you want the goods? Yes. Give me the money and I will supply you with the bills of lading. So the bill of lading is a key document. The airway bill, the road manifest, does not have the same impetus as a bill of lading. A bill of lading is a document of title to the goods. So the shipping line, on the other hand, could also hold you ransom. And if you don't pay their costs, they don't release the goods. Now, Incoterms are international commercial terms. It's a legal aspect that defines 3 things: risk, cost, and responsibility for the seller and the buyer. Again, through my arbitration processes, I cannot tell you how many large companies are totally oblivious to their responsibilities under the Incoterms. But when the paw hits the fan, then suddenly they've got the book out and they're trying to establish who's right and who's wrong. And of course, the exporter never wants to be wrong and the importer never wants to be wrong. So it results in a bun fight. But we need the Incoterm to cost a product. We cannot cost unless we understand the Incoterms, because they're like Lego blocks. We start with X works, we add costs. We add customs clearance and inland freight, we get FCA. We add our main carriage of freight, we get CPT. We add insurance, we get CIP. And so as the Incoterm changes, so the risk, the cost and responsibility changes. The one thing that I want to tell you is never quote in rands, never. Our Reserve Bank frown on it. Firstly, they want us to earn foreign currency. Second thing is you must quote obviously you're going to be quoting in dollars, pounds, euros, any of those. But we need to make sure that our rand, we cost the product in rand and then convert at the time of actual quotes. So I quote in rands on my costing sheet, and when I'm going to convert and actually provide somebody with a quote, at that stage, I get an exchange rate. I then make the rand stronger, because if the rand increases, then obviously we're going to earn less money. So I make the rand slightly stronger, and I then quote the client. Never showing the exchange rate and always quoting in a foreign currency. So we need to monitor the exchange rates. We need to be seen on a daily basis. This is what the dollar's doing. This is what the euro's doing. This is what the pound's doing, etc. Now, we spoke briefly about technical barriers to trade, and I know that Seda and the DTI have a lot of benefits for technical barriers to trade. This is one of the biggest hurdles that we have to get to. And I always see this at sometimes developed countries saying, come least developed countries, we want your products. But if you don't have barcodes, you don't have ISO, you don't have the right labeling and packaging, we don't want your products. We do understand that it is there to protect the health and safety of the human population. However, some of these technical barriers, in my opinion, are not there to promote trade, but rather to discourage it. So technical barriers, even barcodes, ladies and gentlemen, you have to get barcodes from the South African Consumer Council. Do not purchase barcodes online because they are not the correct ones. They will sell them to you, but they cannot be used specifically for international marketing purposes. So technical barriers to trade, we need to get that under our belts. And that is the end of my presentation. As I say, I am looking at promoting South African products, and I would like to work closely with you, Bernadette, and the rest of, Leah too, regarding possibility of us assisting South African companies in export development.
Thank you very much, Linda, for a very enlightening presentation. Once again, I say I'm so glad that as participants and attendees, we have the Seda and we have TISA and we have experts like you, Linda, to go back to, because I think the information was well presented, but sometimes very overwhelming. Lots of export terminology and words used. And like I say, it's just nice to know that we can go back to this various departments and agencies for that help. So thank you once again for a very well presented presentation. Much appreciated. We have reached the end of our webinar on export development. Just in terms of the way forward, we have now reached our end of the session. Just to remind you that we will be sharing the presentations with the attendees as well as the recording of this session. So we want to end off by just saying thank you to our attendees for joining us today for this webinar, and also that we hope you found the information valuable, and that you will join us in future sessions as well. So just in terms of thank you and closures, I just want to say a thank you to our speakers for the very thought-provoking presentations, and to you, our attendees, for taking the time to join us for this webinar. And we wish you all well. We see there are no, oh gosh, there we go. Just in terms of, I'm just looking at the chat and the Q&A. So thank you very much, Thandi, for your comments and that you found it very informative. Much appreciated. So if after the session you have any questions or any inquiries, we will share the information of the presenters with you, and you can make contact with them. So we wish you all a great afternoon further. Keep safe, take care, and goodbye.